السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، وأهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج شاهد على العصر، حيث نواصل الاستماع إلى شهادة دون مهاتير محمد رئيس الوزراء الماليزي. مرحبا بك.
Thank you.
ما هي الركائز الأساسية التي بنيت عليها سياسة ماليزيا الخارجية منذ أن توليت السلطة أول مرة في العام 1981؟
From the very beginning, I felt that we must be friendly with all nations of the world, irrespective of their ideology.
وهل نجحت في تحقيق ذلك؟
Yes, I think by and large, Malaysia has got, is neutral. We don't take any sides with any conflicts between nations. We want to be friendly with both parties. So that has worked very well. We are accepted everywhere that we go.
حينما توليت السلطة في العام 1981 للمرة الأولى كرئيس للحكومة، كان هناك قوتان في العالم، الاتحاد السوفيتي وحلف الناتو. الآن الدنيا تغيرت في العام 2019 وهناك قوة وحيدة فقط هي الولايات المتحدة، وقوى نامية أخرى، وربما عالم متعدد الأقطاب. هل يمكن لسياسة ماليزيا أن تتغير مع تغير موازين القوى في العالم؟
No, even when there was only one superpower, we maintain good relations, which does not mean that we have to take orders from them or do what they want us to do. We remain neutral and we remain independent in terms of our foreign relations. But we are friendly with the one superpower. But now, of course, China is emerging. We have always had good relations with China. We trade a lot with China, and we are friendly towards China. And we, in the in the conflict between China and the US, we have taken no sides. What we want to see is, of course, that there should be no trade wars, because that is detrimental to our own economy.
ما تقييمك للفترة الزمنية الحالية التي يمر بها العالم من حيث توازن القوى؟
Well, today, obviously, the U.S. is not as dominant as it was before, because it has to contend with rising China. So today we see the world again practically divided into two, whereas before it was East against West, but now it seems to be between the U.S. And China. But we are not siding with any of them.
وأين موقع أوروبا من هذا الصراع الموجود بين هاتين القوتين؟
I think Europe is not as much against China as is America, because Europe knows that China is a big market. Europe wants to trade with China, wants to invest in China. But of course, Europe is less keen to participate in provocative acts like sending warships into the South China Sea.
وأين موقع روسيا في هذا الصراع القائم الآن؟
Well, Russia seem to be siding with China, but they have some kind of friendship arrangement with China. But it is mainly in order to strengthen both of them, strengthen China as well as Russia.
وأين العالم الإسلامي من هذا الواقع؟
The Islamic world has got no strong influence. We are at the moment being oppressed by everyone. Anybody can do anything to the Islamic world, because the Islamic world is very, very weak and has no influence over anything.
هناك صدام قديم بينك وبين الغرب. الغرب لا يكن لك أي ود، لا سيما البريطانيون الذين كانوا يحتلون هذه البلاد من قبل. عودتك إلى رئاسة الحكومة مرة أخرى، هل لا زال الغرب يكن لك نفس الكراهية القديمة؟
Well, maybe they dislike me, but I don't think I am, uh, well, I'm not against them. But when they do something wrong, I reserve the right to express my own opinion of whatever it is that they have done. That is my freedom of speech. I have a right to that, but whether they like it or not, what I need to say, I will say.
في 12 من مايو عام 2018 حينما عدت إلى السلطة أفردت جريدة التايمز البريطانية افتتاحيتها من أجل هذا الأمر، وقالت إن عودة مهاتير محمد إلى السلطة تثير مخاوف الغرب، لأنه يريد أن يبني وينمي بلاده اقتصاديا، والغرب لا يريد ذلك، لأن تنميتها اقتصاديا تعني استقلالها في قرارها.
Yeah, that is true. I believe it is every country's wish to become strong economically, if not militarily. So we want to be independent. We have broken away from being a colony of Europe, of England, but there is no point in becoming independent if you cannot behave like an independent country. That is to say, you are free to express your opinion of whatever it is that is happening in the world.
لماذا تقف الدول الغربية بشكل أساسي ضد أي محاولات للتنمية والاستقلال في القرار من دول العالم الثالث أو الدول العربية والإسلامية تحديدا؟
Yeah, but that is different between Malaysia and Europe, and the Arab countries and Europe. As you know, they started off by taking land from the Palestinians to create the state of Israel. That, of course, caused the Arabs to become very angry. So are we in Malaysia, because it is unjust, unfair to do that. But, of course, they are quite prepared to help Israel to the point of even participating with Israel in oppressing the Arabs.
ربما آتي تفصيلا لهذا الموضوع، لأن لك مواقف من إسرائيل يعني قوية أقوى من المواقف العربية الآن، لكن في إطار العلاقات بين ماليزيا والغرب، أنت قلت أن سياسة ماليزيا قائمة على عدم العداء مع أي طرف، لكنك حتى قبل وجودك في السلطة وأنت تنتقد الرئيس الأمريكي ترامب انتقادات لاذعة، وصفته بأنه شخص غريب الأطوار. وحينما أعلن ترامب عن نقل السفارة الأمريكية إلى القدس والاعتراف بالقدس عاصمة لإسرائيل، خرجت على رأس تظاهرة ضده. كان ذلك في 2017 قبل أن تتولى السلطة، لكن حتى بعد توليك السلطة لا تتوقف عن نقد ترامب. أما يمكن أن يجلب ذلك العداء لماليزيا؟
It is not about being friendly or against America or Europe. I reserve the right to make my own comments on any injustice committed by anyone. In this case, moving the embassy to Jerusalem is something that is wrong. Jerusalem doesn't belong to Israel. So I have a right to criticize Israeli occupation of Jerusalem, and also those countries which support Israel by setting up their embassies in Jerusalem. That is my right to criticize, as much as they have a right to criticize me.
على بعد مسافة ليست كبيرة من ماليزيا هناك صراع قوي في بحر الصين الجنوبي بين الولايات المتحدة من جهة والصين من جهة أخرى. ما رؤيتك لأسباب هذا الصراع؟
We have expressed our hope that the South China Sea will not see any confrontation between the U.S. and China. We have asked that no warships, big warships, should be stationed in the South China Sea because it may cause accidents and that may lead to fighting or more serious confrontation. What we want to see is a South China Sea that is peaceful. So any attempt to confront China because of Chinese claims should not be through stationing warships in the South China Sea. Such things should be resolved through negotiation or through a court of law.
ما هي الأهمية الاستراتيجية لبحر الصين الجنوبي؟
South China Sea is the sea where a huge number of ships or a huge amount of trading is done. East and west trade must pass through the South China Sea. If there is a conflict there, obviously ships cannot pass through safely. And that means our trade, China's trade, our trade, Southeast Asia's trade, all will be obstructed. And we will lose a lot if we cannot trade with people. So it is important that the South China Sea remains free for navigation by all countries.
ما هي الدول التي ستخسر إذا نشب صراع في بحر الصين الجنوبي؟
Certainly all the countries that are on the shores of the South China Sea. The Southeast Asian countries, Japan, Korea, all will suffer if there is conflict in the South China Sea.
وماذا عن ماليزيا؟
Malaysia too, because we are the main passageway. Ships going east and west will pass through not only the South China Sea, but also the Straits of Malacca. And when there is conflict in South China Sea, even the Straits of Malacca will be affected. And that will reduce trade and therefore hurt our economy.
ما الذي جاء بالولايات المتحدة من على بعد عشرات الآلاف من الكيلومترات إلى بحر الصين الجنوبي لكي تناوش الصين؟
China claims that the South China Sea belongs to China. But so far, it has done nothing to stop free navigation. But the US is always trying to block China from being very assertive, being able to influence the countries of Southeast Asia. And of course, that will help in the development and growth of China to compete with the US.
ما موقفكم من المناورات العسكرية التي لا تتوقف في بحر الصين الجنوبي التي تقوم بها الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية؟
We have always felt that there should not be military maneuvers in the South China Sea. It should be very limited and it should not be provocative.
أنت وجهت انتقادات لهذه المناورات ووصفتها بالهراء والاستفزاز ومضيعة المال.
Yeah, they are not necessary. They are provocative. Why is it that they don't have this kind of exercise in other places? They should have it in the Atlantic Ocean.
الإعلام الغربي يتهمك بأن انتقاداتك هذه تأتي لصالح الصين ضد الولايات المتحدة والدول الغربية.
Not pro-China. When I say there should be no warships, it applies to China as much as it applies to the US. No warships should be stationed in South China Sea. But of course, we are not in a position to stop, but this is our stand. Our stand is that there should be no warships in South China Sea because there may be accidents and that may lead to conflicts. So we feel that South China Sea should be safe from piracy. And for piracy, you need only small warships, but not big warships which looks as if they are going to attack China or some other country.
الولايات المتحدة انسحبت من بعض المناطق وجاءت بمزيد من القوات في بحر الصين الجنوبي. ما رؤيتك لمستقبل الصراع الآن في بحر الصين الجنوبي؟
Well, it may escalate, but we do hope that common sense would prevail, that if there is any differences between China and other countries, this should be resolved through negotiation, arbitration, or going to a court of law.
وماذا عن مستقبل الوجود الأمريكي في جنوب شرق آسيا؟
Americans like to show off military strength. We would prefer that America shows its diplomatic strength, that it can handle conflicts not through threatening with warships, but by negotiating and discussing differences with the other party.
هناك حرب أخرى معلنة بين الولايات المتحدة والصين، هي الحرب التجارية. أين موقع ماليزيا من هذه الحرب؟
Trade wars are very damaging to the economies of all countries. So we don't think that although there is a very big imbalance in the trade between China and the US, the way to resolve that should be through reaching some kind of agreement with regard to the trade. Perhaps China should be asked not to export too much to the US and to buy more from the US. That will reduce the imbalance. But applying through trade wars, applying sanctions is only damaging not only for China but also for the US.
وإلى أين يمكن أن يصل مستقبل هذه الحرب في ظل أنها أصبحت حرب مدمرة للطرفين وليس لطرف واحد؟
Well, I hope that future presidents of the United States might change the policy, because it is damaging also to the United States. The cost of living in the US will rise because China provides cheaper products, and that will help the living standards in America. But if America stops trading with China and stops investing in China, then these companies cannot go back to America where the cost of production is very high. It has to invest in other countries. But then if you invest in other countries and lose the big Chinese market, then of course the profitability cannot be guaranteed, especially in motor vehicles. Lots of Western motor vehicles are manufactured in China, mostly for the Chinese market.
ما طبيعة الحرب الاقتصادية التي يشنها الاتحاد الأوروبي عليكم فيما يتعلق بزيت النخيل؟
Well, they are trying to say that palm oil should not be used because producing palm oil involves cutting down the forests. But that is not completely true. There were some forest clearings before, but now we have expanded all our needs already. We are not cutting more forests, but we still produce a lot of palm oil, and we want to sell to many countries. We buy a lot from Europe. It stands to reason that when we import things from Europe, we should also be able to export something to Europe. And what we produce is palm oil. And for them to boycott our palm oil is a kind of trade war.
أنت هددت الأوروبيين في 24 مارس 2019 أنك قد تلجأ لشراء الطائرات من الصين إذا استمروا في حربهم ضد زيت النخيل.
Well, that is a possibility, of course. If we are treated badly by the Europeans, why should we help the European economy by buying their planes? They are undermining our economy by running down palm oil. So we have to look elsewhere to purchase our planes. Not just China, but maybe also from America and Brazil.
هل هناك خطوات جادة في هذا الأمر أنكم فعلا تبحثوا عن أسواق بديلة لشراء الطائرات؟
At the moment, we have not done anything serious, but that is a possibility which we have to make it known that if we are being undermined, our economy is undermined by condemning our palm oil, we have to retaliate. But that is not something we like to do. What we want to do is to explain to Europe that what accusation they made against us about depriving the habitat of animals and all that is not true.
الصين سوق ضخم جدا يستوعب كل شيء من الأطعمة بشكل أساسي. هل لديكم تفكير في الاستعاضة بالصين بالسوق الصيني عن السوق الأوروبي، لا سيما وأن فاكهة الدريان الماليزية أصبحت تستورد بكميات كبيرة من الصينيين؟
Yes. Well, the Chinese has a very big population, bigger even than Europe, and Europe and North America combined. It is a huge market. We cannot lose this market. We have to trade with China. Obviously, if the Americans or the Europeans do not want to do business with us, do not want to import our palm oil, we will increase our trade with China, selling to them durians and other fruits which the Chinese like to eat.
في مقابل الولايات المتحدة وأوروبا، ما هي طبيعة علاقتكم مع روسيا، موسكو؟
We have good friendly relation with Russia. We want to do more trade with Russia. We think that Russia can be a good market for us. We have to identify what we can export to Russia, and maybe we can buy some of the airplanes from Russia.
أنت أعلنت في سبتمبر 2019 بعدما قمت بزيارة موسكو أنكم تسعون لتحديث أسطولكم من طائرات ميج 35 الروسية.
Well, that is a possibility. That is a choice. If we cannot get buy planes from elsewhere, or they put in conditions that if you buy planes from them, you can only operate if they allow you to operate. That means we have no freedom to use the aircraft. Russia imposes no such restriction. When we buy planes from them, we can use the plane anytime, anywhere. So it is much more free for us to purchase from Russia. And besides, their planes are of good quality, but also they are cheaper.
هل معنى ذلك أن الولايات المتحدة وأوروبا تفرض عليكم حينما تشتروا طائرات منها شروط في الاستخدام؟
Yeah, when we buy military planes, there are conditions applied. And also we feel that they don't allow us freedom to use the plane in any way we like. So we would like to prefer buying from a country which places no restriction on their use.
الرئيس بوتين أعاد روسيا إلى الواجهة من جديد. كيف تنظر إلى مستقبل روسيا وتأثيرها في موازين القوى العالمية في ظل وضعها الحالي؟
What is a fact is that America spends huge sums of money developing war weapons of all kinds. And when you do that, it threatens Russia. And Russia's response is to equip itself with more weapons. So there is an arms race started basically by America, which spends a huge sum of money on producing weapons and building up a huge military force. When you do that, you threaten people, and then you apply sanctions on Russia. Of course, Russia will have to defend itself and find ways of retaliating against the threats.
هناك تعاون وثيق الآن بين روسيا والصين، بل ربما ولادة لتحالف. هل العداء التاريخي بين البلدين في تصورك انتهى؟
Well, China and Russia both feel the pressure exerted by the United States. When you do that, you push your enemies closer together. You are against Russia, you are against China, and of course the way to counter the threats from US is for you to join, to strengthen yourself, and naturally you push them together, and now they have to be friendly with each other.
منظمة شنغهاي الآن تشق طريقها بقوة كمنظمة منافسة لحلف شمال الأطلسي. كيف تنظر إلى مستقبل منظمة شنغهاي التي تضم الآن يعني ما يقرب من 60% من عدد سكان العالم، والتي تقودها الصين وروسيا، وأصبحت الهند وباكستان ودول كثيرة أعضاء فيها؟
Now, if you form NATO with a lot of European countries, you cannot say other people cannot form their own groupings. If you do that, then others will try and protect their interests by having their own groupings. So as NATO is formed in Europe, and of course is to defend Europe, the other side, Russians and others, will have to form their own coalition so that they can be strong enough to counter NATO. But one has to remember that the first thing that was formed was NATO, not the Shanghai grouping.
هل هذا ما دفعك أنت والرئيس أردوغان ورئيس وزراء باكستان وأمير قطر ورئيس وزراء إندونيسيا إلى الإعلان عن القمة الإسلامية الخماسية الأولى في كوالالمبور في 19 من ديسمبر؟
Well, the KL summit was proposed because we think that the Muslim world is in a state of crisis. Nothing seems to have been done to stop this crisis. Muslims are fighting each other. They are very unstable. Some Muslim countries do not have a proper government even. So the Muslim countries that are relatively free from trouble should come together and find out why is this happening, whether there is anything that can be done to reduce the conflicts and the between Muslim countries especially, and also the fighting that goes on within the Muslim countries, and of course the Israeli problem.
ما هو الهدف الرئيسي لهذه القمة؟
The main target is to study closely the causes for the conflicts, for the crisis in the Muslim world. Why is this happening? Is it because our religion caused us to become like that, or is it because we are not following our religion?
ما هي فلسفة اختيار هذه الدول الخمس فقط دون غيرها من الدول الإسلامية لتكون نواة أو بداية لهذه القمة؟
They are the countries which are least involved in the conflicts. So we find that they have a stable government, and we think that we should be discussing how others also can become stable.
هل هذه القمة هي قمة لمرة واحدة أم ولادة لحلف إسلامي جديد؟
It depends upon the decisions made at the KL summit. If it is worthwhile, it should be repeated. But what is more important is if any decisions are made, they must be carried out, because it's no good just talking and then going home and doing nothing.
هل هذه القمة أو هذا التحالف سيكون بديلاً عن منظمة المؤتمر الإسلامي التي تضم 56 دولة إسلامية؟
No, it's not. The Islamic OIC is a very big organization of 52 countries. It is difficult for 52 countries to decide on anything at all. There will always be differences between them. But if we can have a small group of Islamic countries which have the same mindset, then it may be possible for us to discuss without thinking about our own country's policies and attitudes.
الكل يتساءل عن عدم دعوة المملكة العربية السعودية لهذه القمة.
We are inviting them also, but I don't think the king would be coming. We hope they can send some representative. but it's not the head of government.
هل وجهتم الدعوة لدول أخرى واعتذرت أو
Yes, we are. We are sending invitation to many countries. They are welcome to come, but the principal organizers would be the 5 countries that we mentioned before.
هل تعتقد أن الدول الغربية ستترككم تعملون ما تريدون وتجتمعوا وتقرروا وتتحركوا بهذه السهولة؟
Well, we don't think it's going to be easy. It's difficult, but not doing anything, I think, is wrong. When 2 people fight, the third person must try to reconcile the two. That is what our religion teaches us. So at least if we can try to do something. Malaysia is a small country. It's not very influential, but at least we can hold a meeting.
هذه الدول ال5 عدد سكانها تقريبا يوازي عدد سكان الاتحاد الأوروبي حوالي 500 مليون نسمة. هل يمكن أن يكون هذا بداية لتوحيد المسلمين وحل مشاكلهم أم أن الأمر أبعد من ذلك؟
No, I think we cannot unify all the Muslims. That is too big a task for us. But maybe we can get some Muslims to speak the same language and understand the problems and maybe also find solutions to the problem.
هل العالم الإسلامي يملك مقومات النهضة؟
To be stable, it must have a good government, a government that is supported by the people. It's not difficult to be stable, but if a person in power abuses his power, like what happened in Malaysia, of course the people will not support the government, it will not become stable. So good governance is of course good for us. We should practice good governance of our countries, which will make it stable, strong, and able to solve some of the problems faced by the Muslim.
ما هي المجالات الأساسية التي ستتعاون هذه الدول ال5 فيها فيما بينها؟
There is a possibility, of course, for the countries to cooperate economically, to help each other to grow, but we can also exchange information on the governance of our countries, on how to achieve stability, how to grow the country and make it stronger economically. And because if you are stronger economically, then obviously you will also be slightly stronger in terms of our military capability.
أنت قمت بزيارة تركيا وقضيت هناك تعتبر زيارة تاريخية كما وصفت. ما الذي أعجبك في تركيا حينما ذهبت إليها؟
Turkey was once a great power, a very powerful country. It is still capable of becoming a powerful country. There are some problems, of course, like every country, but Turkey has shown greater capacity to acquire the skills, the sciences, the capabilities of developed countries. And I think Turkey would be a leader in terms of a country's economic development and also attaining more stability.
أنت خلال زيارتك إلى تركيا أيضا أعلنت عن رغبتك في تعاون قوي بين ماليزيا وتركيا. ما الذي يمكن ما هي مجالات هذا التعاون؟
I always believe that our religion tells us that we must prepare for the defense of the Ummah. But for a long time, we have no capacity to produce even defensive weapons for ourselves. And that means we are not obeying the teachings of our religion. And to be able to prepare for our own defense means we have the capacity to build our own warships and planes, etc., so that we don't have to depend upon others. When you depend upon others to a certain extent, you submit to them. You are no longer free. But to be free, to protect the Muslim Ummah, we must have good capacity to defend, not aggressive, But for defense, we must have the capacity to provide ourselves with the means for defending ourselves.
وهل بدأت تركيا السير في هذا الطريق؟
I think Turkey is the most advanced country in the Muslim world in terms of ability to provide for itself, in terms of its strengths, defense capabilities, and it is relatively more stable than many other Muslim countries.
ما الذي يمكن أن تقوم به تركيا في هذا التحالف الخماسي الجديد؟
Well, I don't expect Turkey to launch an all-out battle against Israel. If you do that, then the Americans will come in, the Europeans will come in to defend Israel. But Turkey can do a lot to protect the Muslims.
وما الذي يمكن أن تقوم به باكستان وباكستان ديمقراطيتها هشة؟
Pakistan has got a big population. They are very clever people. Many of them have migrated even to the United States, where they are contributing towards the development of the United States military and other fields. Why shouldn't they do it for themselves and for the Muslim world as well? So Pakistan has shown a desire to work together with other Muslim countries, and because of that, we think that a combination of Pakistan and Turkey would be very, very, very good for the Ummah.
وما هو الدور الذي تقوم به إندونيسيا وهي من أكثر أو من أكبر دول العالم الإسلامي في عدد السكان؟
Indonesia also is a stable country. It has a big population, 260 million. It's the biggest Muslim country in the world, and it has tremendous potential economically and also in other fields. And I believe that the Indonesians are very committed to Islam, and therefore they would be interested in helping their Muslim brothers elsewhere to protect themselves.
قطر دولة صغيرة، قد تكون هذه الدول كلها كبيرة، لكن قطر دولة صغيرة، ما الدور الذي يمكن أن تقوم به قطر؟
Allah has given Qatar great wealth, lots of gas that Qatar can export and make money from. In any struggle, we need money. Perhaps Qatar's role will be more in financing than providing a lot of industrial capacities, etc. So Qatar can also contribute a lot towards stabilizing. Qatar itself is very stable as a government, as a country, and I think one of the things that we need to export to other Muslim countries is how to stabilize the country and function like a good country with good government.
هناك مسافات هائلة جغرافية هائلة بين هذه الدول الخمس. هل هذا ميزة أم أن هذا يصعب من التواصل؟
Geographical distance doesn't count now. We can talk to each other as if you are in front of me. I mean, with radio, TV, with internet, and communication system. Travel is very fast by air. It's not like the old days. It takes 6 months for people to travel from China to Malaysia. Today it takes 3 hours. So although geographically the distance is great, but in terms of communication, we are next door to each other.
هل هذا التحالف الخماسي مرتبط بكم كأشخاص؟ مهاتير رئيس وزراء ماليزيا، الرئيس أردوغان في تركيا، الشيخ تميم بن حمد أمير قطر، رئيس وزراء عمران خان رئيس وزراء باكستان، أم أنها فعلا قناعة من الدول وليس من الأفراد؟
Well, we have had some private discussions, which is other, and we have the same mindset. We are worried about the fate of the Muslims and the religion of Islam because it is under attack. people are instigating Muslim countries to fight each other, to have civil wars, to become unstable, to the extent that Muslims now are running away from their own country, from their own Muslim country, which means that their own Muslim country is not providing them the security. And yet this is what is enjoined upon us, to provide security, to defend the Ummah. That has not been done. So we have to understand, why is it that some Muslim countries cannot even become democratic? We need to know why. I think we all have some ideas, and I think it's good to exchange ideas about how to solve problems.
أشكرك، وتسمح لي نكمل في الحلقة القادمة. شكرا جزيلا لك، كما أشكركم مشاهدينا الكرام على حسن متابعتكم. في الحلقة القادمة إن شاء الله نواصل الاستماع إلى شهادة تون مهاتير محمد رئيس الوزراء الماليزي. في الختام أنقل لكم تحيات فريق البرنامج، وهذا أحمد منصور يحييكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.